My name is Maciej Pelszyk and I run the Impossible Figures studio, where we work on various types of non-standard projects that go beyond the usual paths of operation. Mana was undoubtedly such a project where we had a lot of non-standard elements, a lot of bent elements, and a lot of elements that required a great deal of time and design work before the project could be carried out. In this particular project, we used plywood, among other things, in the bar, where we had quite a lot of bent elements, so we used bendable plywood, as well as ready-made oak veneered plywood. We used this plywood in the production of the doors. As well as in the so-called snail, it is a sofa that has a shape somewhat like a snail. There, the entire structure was made of plywood because it had to be solid and durable, which is why plywood was chosen. My name is Staszek Łoskot. I work at Impossible Figures and I work as a designer, but I also operate a CNC machine. So I deal with cutting our projects, often those made of plywood. Plywood is a good material for CNC machining because it has a very regular structure. This is what distinguishes it from solid wood, as you will not come across a knot there that could damage the element or also damage the machine if something chips off. So it is a consistent material that we can easily process, and in many different ways we can cut it. We can also mill it. This means we can create easy joints, which then speeds up the assembly on site. I also think that plywood is very forgiving, because if we compare plywood with another wood-based board, such as particle board, then if some chip or small damage happens to plywood, it is much easier to recover from that, right? Because if we damage a piece of particle board, let's be honest, it will be difficult to fill that particle board with anything or conceal it. But plywood, in my opinion, can be repaired very easily. Bendable plywood is characterized by a different grain arrangement, which makes it easier to bend. There, the grain is predominantly arranged in one direction, which means it can be bent and glued onto a structure that then holds the required shape. The advantage of plywood over other materials is that we can optimize the amount of material, because plywood is much stronger than other wood-based materials, such as particle board or MDF. As a result, for example, when creating sofas and seating, we can use less material and also fewer parts, which makes production easier for us. Additionally, this increases the strength and durability of the furniture. We work with plywood quite often. For example, recently we made a huge step-suspended ceiling in the BRUT restaurant in Koszyki. The ceiling was made entirely of softwood plywood, and in this particular case, a big advantage for us was that plywood is available in different formats. Here we used a format of 3 meters by 1.5 meters. This allowed us to greatly optimize the waste and the cutouts of these elements. Another project made of plywood was a mobile potato exhibition, which we created in recent months. It was made entirely of plywood because we needed a material that would be durable, would survive every transport, and the various locations where the exhibition was to take place. The exhibition was created from plywood with UV printing, resulting in a very visually coherent design in the natural colors of plywood, which fitted perfectly into an exhibition about potatoes. Indeed, in recent years, we have noticed the return of this trend of using plywood aesthetics in kitchen furniture. People do often choose plywood for furniture fronts.
często wybierają sklejkę na fronty meblowe.
The name Impossible Figures is a reference to the things that are created in our studio. We do a lot of projects for the advertising industry, and these projects are characterized by the fact that they are unique and one of a kind. And that is where this reference to impossible figures comes from. These are things that seem impossible, but we can still make them.
Są niby niemożliwe, ale jednak możemy je zrobić.